As you prepare to rest, allow yourself to consider a thought that is seldom addressed directly, yet quietly influences the trajectory of your life. What if the future is not a sequence of random events unfolding before you, but a responsive phenomenon, one that listens to your expectations and subtly adjusts itself to accommodate them? Pause for a moment. Reflect on the implications of such a possibility. Throughout history, philosophers, psychologists, and scientists alike have debated the extent to which human cognition influences reality. While some suggest that thoughts merely interpret the world, others propose that belief itself initiates change. You, like many, have likely encountered situations where your fears appeared to manifest, or where confidence seemed to precipitate success. These occurrences are often dismissed as coincidences or attributed to subconscious behavioral patterns. However, they invite a deeper question. Are your thoughts passive reflections of the world, or are they active forces shaping it? This inquiry forms the basis of what scholars and theorists have termed the self-fulfilling prophecy. Originating from sociological studies, yet extending into psychology, neuroscience, and even quantum theory, this concept posits that expectations influence behaviors, which in turn alter outcomes to align with those very expectations. But what remains less explored, and what you will contemplate tonight, is the broader, perhaps more profound dimension of this phenomenon. Might the self-fulfilling prophecy not only dictate the small, observable patterns of daily life, but also engage with the underlying architecture of reality itself? This journey will not be one of definitive answers. Rather, it will be an exploration, an intellectual and introspective dialogue designed to engage both your conscious understanding and your deeper intuitive awareness. And as sleep gently overtakes your senses, you may begin to perceive that your thoughts are not isolated fragments, but quiet architects influencing the shape of what is yet to come. Consider the question that was posed. Is your future something you passively encounter, or something that subtly responds to the expectations you carry? To engage with this inquiry, it is essential to first establish a clear understanding of the concept known as the self-fulfilling prophecy, a phenomenon both extensively studied and yet often misunderstood. The term self-fulfilling prophecy was first introduced by the sociologist Robert Merton in 1948. Merton described it as a false definition of a situation that evokes behavior, which in turn causes the originally false conception to become true. Over time, this idea transcended the field of sociology and found applications in psychology, education, economics, and even the behavioral sciences. In simple terms, a self-fulfilling prophecy occurs when an individual's belief or expectation, whether accurate or not, influences their actions in such a way that it brings about the very outcome they anticipated. What begins as a mere thought gradually becomes reality, often without conscious awareness of the mechanisms at play. You have likely encountered this process in your own experiences. Consider moments when you anticipated failure and subsequently noticed yourself withdrawing effort or focus, only to find that failure indeed followed. Alternatively, recall situations where confidence propelled you into success, even when the objective conditions seemed unfavorable. At a psychological level, these occurrences are explained through several mechanisms. Confirmation bias encourages you to notice evidence that supports your beliefs, while disregarding contradictory information. Behavioral alignment ensures that your actions unconsciously conform to your expectations. Over time, these cognitive and behavioral patterns reinforce one another, creating a closed loop in which belief and reality become increasingly difficult to distinguish. Yet, while these explanations suffice for analyzing everyday situations, they do not entirely resolve the deeper, more profound dimension of the question at hand. If your thoughts can influence your actions, and your actions can alter outcomes, then by extension your thoughts possess the capacity to shape reality itself, not merely in a psychological sense, but in a tangible, observable manner. This idea raises a more complex hypothesis. Could there exist a reciprocal relationship between your expectations and the unfolding of external events, one that operates even beyond conscious behavior? Contemporary research offers intriguing, albeit inconclusive, support for this notion. Studies in behavioral psychology demonstrate how expectations can influence not only the individual's behavior, but also the reactions of others within social environments. In fields such as neuroscience, it has been shown that repeated thoughts can alter neural pathways, effectively rewiring the brain to favor certain perceptions and responses. Even within quantum mechanics, the observer effect suggests that the act of observation itself may influence the behavior of particles at the subatomic level. While these scientific observations should not be overstated, they invite a reconsideration of the boundary between internal belief and external reality. You might begin to sense that what you believe, whether consciously acknowledged or buried deep within, holds more significance than mere private thought. It may in subtle ways participate in the construction of what becomes real. Your expectations are not silent. They are active participants in the script of your life. And so the original question deepens. Are you simply predicting the future, or are you quietly, persistently creating it? You may notice how the mind, even in quiet moments, does not entirely cease its activity. It observes. It evaluates. It anticipates. This in itself is an act of profound significance. Throughout both ancient philosophy and modern science, a recurring idea has surfaced that perception is not merely a passive process of recording external reality, but an active force that shapes it. Consider the teachings of ancient thought. In Plato's allegory of the cave, individuals mistake shadows for reality until they alter their perception and emerge into a broader understanding. The lesson is not merely that people can be mistaken. It is that the limits of perception define the limits of experienced reality. Centuries later, in the realm of science, a similar idea emerged in a very different form. In the field of quantum mechanics, the observer effect has shown that the very act of measurement, the process of observing a particle, alters its behavior. While the complexities of quantum theory should not be overstated in the context of human thought, the underlying principle is nonetheless striking. Observation is not neutral. Observation participates. In your own life, this principle expresses itself in countless small unnoticed ways. The expectations you hold influence not only your interpretation of events, but the events themselves. If you anticipate disapproval, you may unconsciously behave in ways that elicit it. If you expect success, your posture, tone, and actions shift, often leading others to respond in alignment with those expectations. At a psychological level, this is explained through well-documented mechanisms, such as behavioral confirmation and expectancy theory. But at a more philosophical level, it suggests that your beliefs function as a lens through which potential futures are selected and amplified. Let us extend this contemplation further. If every expectation subtly adjusts your behavior, and if those behaviors influence outcomes, then your beliefs are not isolated mental events. They become part of the causal architecture of reality. And if, as the quantum world suggests, observation alters the observed, then the mind's role may be even more foundational than previously imagined. Thus, you may begin to entertain a possibility both profound and humbling. Your reality is not something you merely encounter. It is something you help to assemble. This does not imply that you have total control. Reality consists of innumerable variables beyond personal influence, yet within the complex interplay of these variables, your expectations, formed through countless past experiences, act as gravitational forces, subtly bending the trajectory of your experiences toward alignment with belief. This gravitational metaphor is not mere poetry. In physics, gravity does not push or pull in a direct manner. It curves the space through which objects move. Similarly, your beliefs may not cause outcomes directly, but they shape the context in which outcomes unfold. What you believe is not an idle thought. It is an architect shaping the path beneath your feet. And so the earlier question persists, deepened. Are you observing the future, or are you quietly, perhaps unconsciously, assembling it through perception itself? Let's talk about how belief operates not merely as an abstract idea, but as a biological process, encoded into the very structure of your brain. Your expectations do not float loosely in the mental ether. They form patterns, neural patterns, that influence how you perceive, interpret, and respond to the world. The human brain is not a passive recorder of experience. It is a predictive organ, constantly anticipating what will happen next and adjusting its internal models accordingly. In the field of neuroscience, this is known as the predictive processing framework. According to this model, your brain constructs predictions based on past experiences and compares them to incoming sensory information. When reality aligns with prediction, the brain's internal model is reinforced. When discrepancies occur, the brain either updates its model or attempts to minimize the perceived error. Now consider how this relates to belief. Each time you expect a particular outcome and the outcome materializes, the neural pathways supporting that expectation become stronger, a process known as Hebbian learning, often summarized by the phrase, "neurons that fire together, wire together." Over time, these reinforced pathways become default routes, guiding not only your thoughts but also your behaviors and even the physiological responses of your body. If you expect rejection, your posture, tone, and micro-expressions may unconsciously reflect defensiveness or withdrawal, increasing the likelihood of rejection. If you anticipate success, the opposite occurs. Your actions align with confidence, often eliciting more positive responses from the environment. At this level, the self-fulfilling prophecy is no longer merely a psychological phenomenon. It becomes a neurobiological feedback loop in which expectation shapes perception, perception shapes behavior, and behavior influences outcomes, which in turn reinforce the original expectation. This cycle does not require conscious awareness. Indeed, much of it operates beneath the threshold of deliberate thought, embedded in what psychologists refer to as implicit beliefs or core schemas. These deeply rooted expectations, often formed in early life, can persist for years or even decades, subtly guiding choices and reactions without overt recognition. But the story does not end there. Modern research in neuroplasticity reveals that while neural pathways can become deeply ingrained, they are not immutable. The brain retains the capacity to rewire itself in response to new experiences and deliberate efforts to challenge and alter existing beliefs. This capacity for change, sometimes referred to as experience-dependent plasticity, provides the biological foundation for practices such as cognitive restructuring, mindfulness, and visualization, all of which aim to interrupt maladaptive patterns and establish new, healthier expectations. In this light, your beliefs are not merely reflections of past experiences. They are active forces capable of reshaping your neural architecture, and by extension, the reality you encounter. Consider once again the deeper question that has followed you since the beginning of this exploration. Are your thoughts predicting the future, or are they shaping the very conditions that bring that future into being? The neural dance of belief suggests that the answer may not be either-or, but a complex interplay in which prediction and creation are inseparable. You have followed the path from expectation to outcome, from belief to behavior, and from thought to neural pattern. Each step has revealed how seemingly intangible ideas, your assumptions, hopes, and fears, possess the capacity to shape tangible realities. Yet, as you continue this journey, a deeper, more complex question inevitably arises. If your beliefs shape your reality, then what shapes your beliefs? Pause and consider. Are your expectations self-originating, born from pure choice? Or are they the cumulative result of prior experiences, cultural narratives, biological predispositions, and unconscious impressions gathered across a lifetime? In other words, are you the author of your prophecies or merely their vessel? This question has occupied thinkers for millennia. In the ancient Stoic tradition, philosophers such as Epictetus argued that while external events lie beyond your control, the judgments and beliefs you form about those events are your responsibility. According to this view, while circumstances influence thought, conscious reason can intervene to shape belief. This paradox extends into modern psychology. While therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, emphasize the individual's capacity to recognize and reshape maladaptive beliefs, other perspectives, such as psychoanalytic theory, argue that much of your belief system operates unconsciously, shaped by formative experiences you did not choose. Even in the realm of science, this tension remains unresolved. Behavioral genetics demonstrates that certain predispositions toward optimism or pessimism can be inherited, implying that expectations might not be entirely self-created. At the same time, epigenetic research reveals that experiences can influence gene expression, suggesting that while predispositions exist, they are not absolute. The result is a philosophical impasse. Do you create your expectations, or do your expectations create you? As you contemplate this, it becomes clear that the relationship between the self and the prophecy is not linear. It is not a simple chain of cause and effect. Rather, it is a recursive loop, a dynamic feedback system in which belief influences reality, which in turn reinforces belief. This principle is echoed in the concept of self-reference, a foundational idea in fields as diverse as mathematics, cybernetics, and even art. Systems that refer back to themselves can generate complex, unpredictable outcomes, much like the interplay between your expectations and your experiences. At this point, you may feel the weight of uncertainty, but do not be troubled by it. Uncertainty is not the absence of understanding. It is the doorway to deeper insight. The fact that you can question the origins of your beliefs suggests that you possess at least some degree of authorship over them. And where authorship exists, so does the possibility of change. This paradox remains open. There is no need to force a resolution. Some questions are best held gently, like distant stars not grasped, but observed with patience and curiosity. So the central question deepens once more. Are you following a prophecy written by the past, or are you even now composing a new one? It becomes evident that the principles we have explored are not abstract theories confined to academic discourse or philosophical debate. Rather, they are present and active in the smallest, most ordinary moments of your daily existence. Your life is composed of countless micro-prophecies, quiet expectations that influence your behavior and shape the responses of the world around you. Consider, for instance, the realm of social interaction. If you approach a conversation anticipating rejection or disinterest, subtle shifts occur in your behavior. Your tone may become hesitant, your posture defensive, your eye contact fleeting. These unconscious signals, though minor, often influence the other person's response, leading to the very outcome you feared. The prophecy fulfills itself not because of destiny or chance, but because expectation shaped conduct, and conduct shaped reality. Alternatively, if you enter the same conversation expecting engagement and understanding, your body language opens, your voice steadies, and your words carry greater clarity and warmth. In many cases, this expectation draws a more positive response from others, reinforcing your belief in the possibility of connection. The same dynamic unfolds in professional settings. An individual who anticipates failure may unconsciously avoid challenges, limit their aspirations, or hesitate at critical moments, thereby increasing the likelihood of negative outcomes. In contrast, an individual who expects success often demonstrates resilience, initiative, and adaptability, qualities that naturally foster achievement. These are not matters of mystical thinking or magical causation. Even your experience of the body reflects this principle. Research in psychosomatic medicine has shown that negative expectations can exacerbate physical symptoms, while positive beliefs can enhance recovery and resilience. The placebo and nocebo effects serve as clear examples, demonstrating that belief alone can influence physiological outcomes. And consider the experience of sleep itself. If, as you prepare for rest, you expect difficulty falling asleep, that very expectation often produces tension and hyper-awareness, making sleep elusive. If you expect restfulness, your body tends to follow suit, releasing into the natural rhythms of sleep. Thus, the self-fulfilling prophecy operates not only in social and professional realms, but also in the intimate dialogue between mind and body. Yet most of these micro-prophecies go unnoticed. They function automatically, shaped by long-standing beliefs and reinforced by repeated experiences. Like the gravitational forces that govern planetary orbits without conscious awareness, these expectations guide your thoughts, emotions, and actions silently but persistently. But now, with the understanding you have cultivated, you possess the capacity to observe them. An observation, as we have seen, is not a neutral act. To observe a belief is to introduce the possibility of change. This realization leads to a profound yet simple insight. Much of what you have perceived as inevitable has in fact been negotiable. Much of what you have accepted as fate has been expectation in disguise. You might recognize the small but significant power that comes with awareness. You are not required to dismantle every belief tonight. Awareness alone is the first essential step in shifting the gravitational pull of your own prophecies. And so once more the question returns: are you witnessing the unfolding of an unavoidable script, or are you preparing, consciously or not, to write the next chapter? You have seen how expectations form, how they shape behavior, and how they influence outcomes not through mystical forces, but through observable patterns of cognition, behavior, and social interaction. But there remains a critical step: the recognition that once observed, these expectations can be reframed. In cognitive psychology, reframing refers to the process of consciously changing the way one interprets a situation, belief, or expectation. It does not involve denial or unfounded optimism, but rather a deliberate shift in perspective that opens new possibilities. At the neurological level, as discussed earlier, neuroplasticity supports this process. Your brain retains the capacity to form new neural pathways, allowing old limiting beliefs to weaken and new constructive expectations to take their place. Yet there is an even broader, more philosophical dimension to this practice, one that reaches beyond the individual mind and connects to the larger structure of reality. If, as quantum physics suggests, observation participates in shaping the observed, and if, as psychological research demonstrates, belief influences behavior and outcome, then your act of reframing expectation is not merely a private mental exercise. It becomes an act of participation in the unfolding of reality itself. When you alter your expectations, you are not only changing internal thoughts, you are adjusting the gravitational field through which future possibilities navigate. Consider this cosmic analogy. Planets do not follow straight lines. Their paths curve according to the gravitational forces they encounter. In the same way, your expectations curve the trajectory of your experiences, bending the future towards certain outcomes while moving away from others. By reframing your expectations, you are gently but significantly altering the curvature of your future's path. This does not imply that every outcome is within your control. External variables remain vast and unpredictable. However, by shifting your internal stance, you increase the probability of outcomes aligned with your revised beliefs. For example, if you reframe the expectation of rejection into the possibility of acceptance, your behavior will unconsciously reflect greater openness and confidence. If you reframe the anticipation of failure into the pursuit of learning and growth, your resilience will increase, enhancing both your performance and your experience. Reframing is not a guarantee, but it is a powerful tool. It transforms you from a passive observer into an active participant, not in the sense of imposing control, but in the sense of co-creating your reality. Before each new experience, whether it is a conversation, a challenge, or a quiet moment of reflection, you might pause and ask yourself, what expectation am I carrying into this moment? And does it serve the future I wish to shape? Even this small act of questioning can initiate the process of reframing. And with repetition, it becomes not only a habit, but a new neural pattern reinforcing the constructive prophecies you wish to fulfill. Thus, your thoughts remain not as isolated, passive observers, but as active architects, quietly shaping the architecture of what is to come. The original question now takes clearer form. Are you predicting the future, or are you participating in its design? You have considered the nature of belief and expectation. You have seen how thoughts shape perception, how perception influences behavior, and how behavior alters outcomes. You have explored the biological patterns that encode these processes into the neural architecture of your brain. And you have reflected on the deeper philosophical paradox, the question of whether you are the author of your prophecies or their product. Through all of this, one truth has remained consistent. Your thoughts are not passive. They are participatory. They do not merely reflect the world. They influence the world even as they are influenced by it. Now it is time to release the need for certainty. The mind often seeks clear answers, linear explanations, and definitive conclusions. But much of reality, like the cosmos itself, operates in patterns too vast and intricate to be fully known. It is not necessary to decide tonight whether you are creating your future or simply predicting it. It is enough to recognize that you possess the capacity for awareness. And awareness is in itself the first step toward intentional change. With this understanding, allow yourself to adopt 3 simple affirmations. You need not repeat them aloud. Let them resonate softly within your thoughts. First, my expectations are not fixed. They are flexible and subject to my awareness and intention. Second, by observing my beliefs, I introduce the possibility of change and growth. Third, I am a participant in the unfolding of my reality, capable of shaping the future with conscious thought and action. These affirmations are not declarations of absolute control. They are acknowledgments of your role in the ongoing dialogue between belief and experience. They are gentle reminders that while much lies beyond your influence, much also responds to the quiet gravitational pull of your expectations. The future is not a distant, fixed destination. It is an open field of potential, continually reshaped by countless variables, including, perhaps most significantly, the beliefs you carry forward into it. And so, the central question posed at the beginning of this journey returns for the final time. Is the future something that happens to you, or is it something that listens to you? Perhaps the answer is both. Perhaps the future listens to your thoughts, even as it surprises you. Perhaps every expectation you hold is a quiet conversation with what is yet to come.